This is Joe from crystalsubstrates.com. We get quite a lot of questions regarding how they come packaged, how should we store them, how should we clean them, can we cut them, how do we handle them, and as well as custom sizing and what techniques can we use, can we use them for. So I'm going to avoid you having to go to all the effort of going to the FAQs page and reading each one of our answers. I will try to answer your questions here, and if you have any other questions, you can feel free to ask us, and then if there's anything more detailed, you can go to our FAQs page and maybe find the answers there. So first of all, packaging. How do they come? They come, all of our substrates, the majority of our substrates are sold in packs of 5. That should be clearly visible on the website. They come in a membrane box. You can see there's a membrane here and a membrane there that they sit between, and they are packed in a clean room and they're sealed in a clean room, so they should be clean when they turn up to you. And for ease of reference, we have a little bit of color coding going on. So the STO, you have this reddy pink, YSZ, you have a light blue turquoisey, another blue for sapphire, then more of a lighter pink for STO. This is also STO, and then for GGG, kind of like a brown color as well. Just so when you're in the lab, you can see what's what when you're sorting through your desiccator. So this is how we like to have them. When you've deposited on them, some people don't like. Some people like to have some lint-free tissue between them, because you may not want the membrane surface touching the surface of your substrate. There are lots of different ways to store your substrates. You may have different things in your lab, different processes. So please consult whoever is running the lab and see what they feel. It may depend on also what film you've started with. So if you're storing these, typically they like to be stored in a desiccator. Keep things nice and dry, just so you know that the quality of the surface that you've got. Often if you're depositing in something like PLD, or where you'll be heating up these substrates to high temperatures before you're using them at 600, 700, 800, 900 degrees. So in that regard, a little bit of moisture won't matter too much, but still good common practice to have them stored in a nice clean area. Try to keep, if you're doing any powder-based target making or anything like that, try to keep them away from your substrate. If you get little bits of, you'll see an SEM, if you've got some powders around and you'll get powder stuck on your surface, it's no good. You don't need that. So keep things clean. Only take them out just before you're going to get them onto your stick them onto your substrate holder whenever you're going to use them. So keep things as clean as possible. Do you need to clean these before you're using them? This is a common question that we're asked. The short answer is no, you don't have to. We've cleaned them before we've packaged them. They've turned up to you in a clean state. However, you will be handling them when you're taking them out. Obviously, there may be a decent amount of time between when they've been packaged and when you're using them. So you may want to clean them yourself. I did have very common procedure that I'd use for all my substrates when I was doing my PhD and postdoctoral work. We used to use a solvent wash where you'd put it in an ultrasonic bath. You'd start with, so you could either start with a detergent or something like Opticlear. You'd give it a clean in that, and that would remove any grease, any organic substances that might be on the surface. But acetone will also do the same, so you can put it in a small amount of acetone, put them in a small beaker with a small amount of acetone so they're fully covered, put them in an ultrasonic bath for 3 to 5 minutes, and then you take it out. You go from acetone, then IPA, and then from IPA into DI, so 3 minutes in IPA, or 3 to 5 minutes in IPA, then 3 to 5 minutes in DI. You can wash the same substrates together. Careful, you label everything on the way through so you're not mixing them up. Finish off with DI and then dry with compressed nitrogen afterwards, and then you should be ready to use. Just check the surface, so you hold up the reflective surface afterwards. See if I can show you here. So you get the reflective surface afterwards, and you should be able to see there are no marks on the surface, no drying marks or anything like that. If there are, start again, just so you make sure you've got a clean surface. So while you're cleaning, there may be some processes that you have in your lab which are different to other labs or for a specific material. These are not covered here. These would be specific to what you're doing. For instance, if you're trying to get titanium termination on your STO by acid washing, or doing something in your chamber, heating it up into certain temperatures, or cleaving it, they would have separate, use your own processes for this. Or if you're doing any preparation such as ozone treatment before spin coating, then please go and find the best practices for your materials, for the substrates. There is a lot of information out there on substrate preparation, and you will be able to find it out there. We may not be the best person to ask for your specific material. However, if you get stuck, reach out. One of us will hopefully be able to point you in the right direction. So cutting, can you cut the substrate? If you're starting with something, what have we got, 5x5, something like this, quite difficult to cut these smaller substrates, although it is possible. It will depend on the material and if they have easy cleaving planes. But if you're starting with something bigger, like a 10x10 STO, this would be something that you might find around the lab. You're like, no, I need 5x5 for whatever I'm doing, or I want to split it into 4 pieces so I can do AFM on one, XRD, SEM, and I don't want to mix up the substrates. So what you do is you go take this out, take it out of the packaging, you'd find the shiny side. In this case, this is one side polished. Then you turn it over so you're on the non-polished side. You then take a scribe and a rule, a diamond scribe, and you'd run the scribe along the back. You don't need to push too hard and make a straight line, and then you just snap it with your hands along that line, and then you can do the same in the other direction. If you're going to do this, I suggest only making one line at a time. So make your line in this direction, snap it this way, then make your lines in the other direction, and then do it this way. If you make a cross, first of all, when you break it, you might have some odd breakages. It won't work perfectly every time. You'll get used to it though, the right amount of pressure. If it's too light and you have to use too much force, it's not going to break cleanly. And if you're too hard, you might even break it while you're doing the scribing. So the thicker these get, this is a 0.5 millimeter thickness. When you go to about 1 millimeter thickness, they become quite a lot harder to cleave. It's still possible. We were using 1 millimeter thick zinc oxide crystals. This is about 10 years ago for some experiments, and you can break them along their cleavage planes and create completely flat, atomically flat surfaces for doing experiments on as well. So if you get it right, it's kind of a must-have for anybody doing thin films. That you should be able to cleave your crystals. You can also, if you need exact dimensions and you want to cut them in the lab, you can use a diamond saw. Just clean them afterwards, because obviously you're doing that in there's a lot of grit and dirt around at the time, so afterwards give them a good solvent wash. Or if you're doing lots of experiments, then just let us know what dimensions that you need, so 3x10 or whatever dimensions you need, and we'll cut your substrates into size so they turn up to you exactly as you need them. The more you order, if you order 50 or 100 of a certain size, it won't cost you any more than ordering one of our standard sizes. We can cut them all up ready to go for you and package them up clean. So handling them, once you've taken them out, I'd suggest using a pair of tweezers. Some people would say don't use plastic tweezers. I always like the feel of plastic tweezers. When you're holding the substrate, you hold it from the side, don't hold it from the top and bottom. Best if you can hold them from the side. But try to find a set of tweezers which the set gap is quite close to your substrate size, so you're not having to open them up and put it around, and then there's some kind of existing force so they can twist and you can lose it on the floor. It's annoying, especially if you just spent all day growing your thin film. You really want to look after it. So often you'll see people walking around the lab with a piece of tissue and carefully kind of trying to get their thin film back. So do it in a clean area. Whenever you're handling things, do it in a clean area. Have a nice piece of clean paper down underneath whatever you're doing. Clean up any powders that are around you, and have all of your everything you need out, have it ready. If you're moving to a substrate box or somewhere else, substrate holder, just make sure you have everything out. You don't want to be holding something here and fiddling around. Then you look back and you've lost your substrate. Probably one of the things you'll get used to in the first year of a PhD is how to handle them. And it does happen. They do get dropped, and it is annoying, but get past it. I think so. Custom sizing was the next one. We've just talked about that. If you need custom sizing, just let us know. We can cut it up for you. What techniques do our customers use? Typically, anything to grow thin films on. So it could be PLD, pulsed laser deposition, sputtering, CVD, chemical vapor deposition, evaporation, as well as other solvent methods. If you're using, it could be spraying or dip coating. What else have I forgotten? Spin coating, or anything else you just need a flat surface for. So all the material specific information you should find on our webpage for each of the products. If you can't find anything, do reach out to us and we'll do our best to answer you. So you find the melting point or crystal structure, any of these kind of different things you should be able to find there. Okay, so as always, happy growing. Order your substrates from crystalsubstrates.com. We'll get them sent out to you as quickly as we can. In stock items sent straight out. If you need something custom made, custom dimensions, it will take a couple of weeks, but we'll get them out to you. And happy growing.